Hey guys, welcome to beautiful Orange County, California. And I'm with something truly special. The brand new Mazda MX-30. The first ever fully electric Mazda vehicle sold here in the US. This is a super important car because of course Mazda is moving toward electrification, and this is the first ever fully electric Mazda here in the US. And in this video we are going over all the cool gadgets and gizmos, showing you through the important features and talking about whether or not you should put this car on your short list.
This ad was brought to you by our friends from Manscaped.com. Recently, Manscaped came out with the waterproof Lawnmower 4.0. To make things better, Manscaped presents the Performance Package 4.0 bundle. It's an all-in-one kit that has everything you need to impress. That means coverage for your body, butt, and balls, people. The lawnmower includes replaceable ceramic blades, wireless charging, and a built-in LED. On top of that, Manscaped even offers you the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer. And as a bonus, you get a bottle of ball deodorant and ball toner, you lucky dog. To make sure you never run out, you can get enrolled in the Peak Hygiene Plan. Go to manscaped.com today and get 20% off plus free international shipping, and for a limited time, you can get 2 free gifts. That's when you use the promo code FASTLANECAR at checkout. Take it from me, your balls, body, and others will thank you.
Now, what is the MX-30? Well, you've probably heard of the CX-30, the small 4-cylinder gasoline crossover. The MX-30 is based on that same platform, so it's kind of a cousin. But of course, they rip out the 4-cylinder engine, plop in a load of batteries and an electric motor, and change the design, in my opinion, for the better. First of all, Soul Red Metallic, easily the best color on the market today across the automotive world. But there's a lot of kind of design trickery going on that is pretty cool when you dive into it. So let's take a look at the color scheme here. It's a 3-tone design. We've got the red, the gray, and the black. But what the gray does is give this car from a distance a coupe-like profile. So it's got kind of this slant back design, but then when you get up close to it, you realize the black portion is really the top of the roof, so you don't compromise any headroom. It's the gray that kind of gives it that fastback design. Mach-E, the Mustang Mach-E, is kind of similar to this too. Very clever though, because you still get the cool looks of a coupe, but you don't get the reduced headroom in the back. Now there is, of course, a fair amount of similarity to other Mazda products, primarily in my opinion, the headlights, grille, quite a bit smaller than other Mazdas, but of course you don't need the same cooling capability. It is worth noting though, they do have actively managed batteries in terms of heat and cooling, which is a good thing, so they're not air cooled like the Nissan Leaf. Now coming along to the wheels, this kind of shiny gray, these are 18-inch wheels wrapped in two 1555 R18 tires. Not a lot of black cladding on the side of this car. One of the big criticisms of some of the newer Mazdas, tons and tons of this black plastic, kind of in my opinion slapped on the side. This one is more subtle, not a huge fender flare in that kind of flat black. It does have black plastic rear bumpers, but much more subtle than like the CX-30. And in the rear, Skyactiv badging. Skyactiv is the Mazda name for the powertrain. No tailpipes, so nothing underneath down low there. And then LED taillights, which look pretty similar to the Miata. And then back here, of course, rear wiper. You've got your third center high mounted brake light, and then this is kind of funky, this little silver, almost a matte silver plaque on the C-pillar that says Mazda, and just in front of that, electric. So there's no forgetting what powers your MX-30. It is a 4-door, but not in the conventional sense. So you open up the front doors, you go to open up the rear doors, look for any kind of handle, nothing there. This vehicle does have suicide doors, very similar to the BMW i3. So of course, when you open up both doors, there is no pillar here, which is pretty cool. But the drawback is you have to open the doors in order. So I couldn't close the door right now without causing damage. So the rear door has to close first. And then of course, the front door can close, or vice versa. The pros of this, it does give it kind of a cool, almost 2-door overall design profile. The cons, if you live with kids and you are frequently getting them in and out of the back, that can be a challenge that is worth noting. Now let's talk about what powers the MX-30, because that of course is the big news. Now, when we go to pop the hood, what you'll find under here is a lot of space, like genuinely huge, gaping amounts of space, because the electric motor is right about there. It only weighs about 280 pounds. It makes 143 horsepower and 200 pound-feet of torque. But this is the most room in an engine bay I have seen in my entire life. I could probably crawl in there and fit, even at near 6 feet tall. It's just cavernous amounts of space. So I asked them, I said, why didn't you put a front trunk in here? And they said, well, the MX-30 is designed to be used across different markets throughout the world. And in some markets, they have range extender models. There might be plug-in hybrid versions coming. So they wanted the ability to basically expand the powertrain options, which is why there is no front trunk. But it just looks silly. I have to say, it's almost comical, the amount of space. You've got the small drive unit there, some high voltage connectors, and then some shielding down below. It does have a radiator there with an electric fan, but that's it. 12-volt battery, unreal, truly unbelievable. Now, the battery for this vehicle lives underneath. It weighs about 680 pounds. And one of the interesting things about the MX-30, the CX-30 is front biased in terms of weight distribution, about 60-40. The MX-30, because of the lightness of the electric motor and the weight of the battery pack, is actually rear biased. So it's about 60% biased toward the rear in terms of weight distribution, which is kind of interesting. And they say that gives this car a very different handling and ride and drive aspect. And we'll be able to get this car on the road here shortly in another video, and we'll go over all the driving dynamics. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the battery. 35.5 kilowatt hours. It's a lithium pack, and that's good for, according to Mazda, about 100 miles on a single charge. 100, that is not a typo, not 200, not 300, but 100. It's charged up back here in the rear of the vehicle. It does have both level 1 and level 2 capability, as well as DC fast charging up to 50 kilowatts. So that'll give you 0 to 80% charge in about 36 minutes is what Mazda is predicting. Is 100 miles enough? Mazda says yes. They said they did their research and they found that the average typical person drives about 30 miles a day in the city. So they tripled it. They gave you 3 times the amount of range you realistically need. That's what they told us. You be the judge. For someone like me that does live in a city who drives maybe 10, 15, 20 miles a day, 100 is probably fine as long as you have a place to plug it in at night. I think that is probably pretty viable. But if you're looking for the ultimate road tripper, the MX-30 is probably not going to be that choice. Although they are giving new buyers something interesting. They're giving you several years of free vehicle, basically rental. So you go to your dealer, you say, hey, I'd like to borrow a vehicle, and you have 10 days a year to borrow a gasoline vehicle for those bigger road trips. Kind of an interesting idea. So let's go ahead and step on in here to the interior and talk about what they have done, because there's actually quite a lot of interesting stuff going on. Back up the seat a little bit here, put my foot on the brake, and let's fire this thing up. Of course, keyless start, just like that. Now, the overall interior design I find to be extremely attractive. Very Mazda in a lot of ways. The dash layout, the steering wheel, if you're used to Mazda products, you're going to be very familiar with this interior, and that's a good thing because Mazda does some of the best interiors in the business. The quality of materials, the diversity of materials, all looks truly fantastic. So let's start out, well, with the door panel. Now, this plastic material that they use on the doors, they say, is made from largely recycled bottles, which is kind of interesting. We've got this felty material up top. And one of the design themes that we see throughout the interior is cork. Check this out. That's not imitation cork. That is real cork down here through the center console, underneath this floating middle section. And even back here on the door pulls, they have incorporated cork. They say not only does it look good, but it's very durable and very long-lived. Now, interestingly enough, Mazda started in the cork manufacturing business, so they say that's also a throwback to their heritage. I think it looks cool. We'll see how durable it is in the long run, but it really kind of livens up and freshens up the interior in a new and kind of innovative way. underneath here, that's where your cup holders are. This floating center console looks really pretty cool. This is the selector for the infotainment system. We've got the volume knob down here, the electric parking brake, and this new shifter, fully electric, park, reverse, neutral drive, and then shift it over into the left to engage park. In front of that, something a little bit new and different, a 7.5-inch touchscreen climate control system. So the entire climate system, be it temperature adjustment, be it heated seats, be it the heated steering wheel, all controlled down here via this little touch panel. Pretty interesting, pretty neat. You do have hard buttons for both temperature increase as well as fan increase, and then you've got your defrost, and then you can turn the whole system off down there with the power. Now above that, very traditional Mazda infotainment screen controlled via the rotary system. People either love or hate it. It does pretty much everything you need it to do. It's got Apple CarPlay, it's got Android Auto, Sirius XM radio. You can go through different navigation screens, all via this little rotary. Mazda says the reason that this is not a touchscreen display is because this is more of a tactile feel while you're driving and distracts less than having to reach up and go through different menus and settings with your finger. But let me know what you think of that in the comments section below. So moving on to the steering wheel, classic Mazda steering wheel. Feels fantastic, leather wrapped, thin spoke, small airbag, one of the best steering wheels in the industry. And then we come to the gauge cluster. So largely digital. On the left, we've got a charge and a power meter that will basically move the needle up and down depending on how hard you're accelerating and regenning. In front of that, we've got our speed, and now it's set up for our assist systems. And to the right of that, we have a kind of an interesting thing, a physical tactile battery gauge, and then temperature, and then we also have battery percentage just to the left of that, so 91% you can see there, and then the actual needles will decrease as you continue to use electricity. Over here, buttons to turn on and off the assist systems. Of course, it does have adaptive cruise control, and they've really incorporated a lot of safety systems like forward collision alert and that kind of thing, and they've really also tried to improve on that. So not only does it have blind spot monitoring via a little triangle in the mirror, it actually has blind spot intervention now. So if it senses that you're merging into a vehicle in your blind spot, it'll actually nudge the steering wheel the other way. And then same thing with cross traffic prevention, or cross traffic alert, I should say. So a lot of vehicles have it when you're backing up. If a car's coming, it'll let you know a car's coming, but this one will do it forward too. So if you try to merge into traffic in the closest lane, it'll let you know, hey, there's a car coming. And the cool thing about that is it took a lot of programming, they said, because you don't want to just be stopped at a stoplight having it freak out as cars come by. So it activates at about 3 miles an hour. So that's the front seat overview of the MX-30. But big question, how is the back? Let's give this a whirl. So this is my driving position at, like I said, about 6 feet tall. All right, well, it's a little bit minimal. It is nicely scalloped. And look at this. Buttons, electric buttons located here in the back of the seat that allows you to move it forward and aft, to help you get in and out of the vehicle. Very cool stuff. I really like this seat material upholstery. You got leatherette bolsters with this cloth insert in the middle. This is also partly recycled cloth, and then this kind of little stitching design down the middle. Headrests do fold to aid with rear seat visibility, and then here in the middle, more cloth and 2 cup holders. Let's scoot this forward just a little bit and then take a quick peek at the trunk space in the MX-30. So, does not have a power liftgate, but decent trunk space and capability. So seats do fold down in a 60-40 split. Headrest currently folded as you see it now. And then underneath the floor, we've got the Bose amplifier and not much else. Tire inflation kit, it looks like. So, spare tire on this model. Now you can lock the vehicle from the back, but you have to manually close it. So pricing and availability, it starts at about $33,000 for the base trim, and then about $36,000 for the high-end trim, and that's before an $1,100 destination charge. Availability, it'll be available shortly here this fall, but only in California. So they're launching this vehicle first in California, and then it'll be hitting the rest of the country next year. And apparently there's a range extended model coming as well, so I can't wait to see what they do with that. So should you put it on your short list? I think that It appears to be a beautifully manufactured, premium looking vehicle that starts, you know, mid 30s, and then of course there's a potential for tax incentives and tax, you know, money back on your taxes, which is pretty cool. Is 100 miles enough? I don't know. I'm gonna have to live with it, get this car back to Colorado and really put it through its paces, and we will get back to you and let you know, is the MX-30 a good value in the EV world? Is it a good performer, or is it just too limited on range to be useful? Well guys, as always, this has been Tommy with the Fast Lane Car. Check out tflcar.com for the latest and greatest in new and used car reviews.